Hello, hello.
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 Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Living my life playing that StarCraft. Being happy.
Yeah, I saw you were playing some Diablo
Yeah.
yesterday.
Do you play?
Yeah, it was the first video game I've ever played. So,
Oh, nice. Yeah. It was at the Diablo 1 is actually one of the first games I ever played as well for PC.
yeah, no, I wasn't allowed to play games as a kid. So,
Oh, really? Okay.
like as an adult, Diablo 3.
Okay.
But
Okay. Makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah, it's fun. I might play it again today, but if I do play it again today will probably be the last day. It's because
yeah.
I'm over that Shadowlands. Uh, but yeah. What class do you play in D3? Just out of curiosity, or what's like your favorite class?
I've kind of played them all, but I think I started as like a wizard.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I think anything that can go like really fast. I love going fast in that game. If it goes
Yeah,
fast, it's good.
yeah. I like the monk because you can like jump.
Yeah. And Monk is really fast.
Yeah,
Like teleport through walls, basically.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That is actually the only thing I don't like about Demon Hunter because like I played Diablo 2 as well a lot before, and I always would make like a sorceress, which is basically like
Mhm.
the wizard of that game, and you could just spam teleport everywhere. You just like just literally jump every object. But since I played Demon Hunter all the time, I'm like, oh, there's a fucking wall there. There's a door there. I gotta like go through the doorway every time and just like go around everything. But
Yeah, yeah.
the fact that you move 200 miles an hour, it makes it easier. So you can like go really fast anyways.
Yeah, just don't get stuck.
Exactly. All right, so we're doing a coaching lesson today, and I guess I do the intro with everybody where I ask a brief summary about, I guess like how you are at StarCraft. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and let me know what race and league, and we'll get you a game plan.
Sounds good. I just started playing about a year ago, and I'm like Diamond 3
Okay.
as Protoss.
Good job, by the way. It's
Thanks.
1 year diamond.
Well,
Never
I
never been
did
a
it
gamer
as
before.
Zerg first,
Okay.
but
That's awesome. Double diamond.
then I wanted to switch to Protoss, so
Okay.
we're back.
Nice. Yeah, Protoss is good. Protoss or Zerg. I respect both of those choices.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so we got some diamond action Protoss going on, and what kind of playstyle do you like to kind of lean towards?
I normally make a lot of probes and Dark Templars. Is kind of my style.
Okay, you're DT. Oh, dirty DTs.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, I there's like a few builds we can kind of like, we could honestly make you some builds that are you can open with like DT pressure into a way where you could macro out of it, and you could do whatever you want out of it. Like you could honestly, if you really wanted to, you could just make more DTs, or you could go into like something more controlling, and you could just open with DTs and pressure. It really,
Yeah.
like we could just make something that sounds good for you. But I guess last question I have is, do you have any replays that you wanted me to look at, or do you want to just kind of like create builds right now and just make something on the spot? Because both would be totally fine.
I have some replays if
Okay.
you want to look at them, and
Sure.
it is kind of like what I've been doing,
Okay. Uh,
but
we,
I'm
we,
open to change. So.
we can check a replay out and just see what's going on. And then we can like, after that, if I get some ideas about how it looks like you'd like to play, I can give you some more ideas on how to like, maybe I'll give you like some example build stuff.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
All right. So all you gotta do to message me, are you in the? If you're not in here, oh, actually you are. I see your name already. I was reading it as I was asking, so I just invited you to a party. I'll make you leader, and then just make me lobby host before we start, and we're good to go. Nice. Okay, let's see these DT builds.
Okay. This one, I think it didn't go that well, but sometimes I just like kill people with like the first 3 DTs.
Yeah, no, it'll happen a lot. That's how it goes.
Yeah, so I think this is probably an example of one it didn't go that great, but
Okay. Yeah, because I feel like in everything like Diamond 2 Masters, it's hard for people to like read their opponent properly without actually seeing a Dark Shrine. So if you're a DT kind of player, unless someone's played you before and they're like, oh, I know this person likes DTs, it'll probably actually work a lot.
Yeah, I play a lot of peep modes with like people who are better than me, so
Okay, that's
they
cool.
kind of know that I play DT, so it doesn't work out the best.
You know, I actually have not told anyone that that's a really good idea, but I actually think that's a really good idea to have low pressure because it doesn't record your games, so it's all just like, it's almost like unranked games in a way. But you also have a chance to play people way better than you, so it's a good way to like actually learn how to play the game. That's actually a really good idea that you're doing that already. Alright, so your build order so far is totally fine. No problem with it. And the fact that you're building a wall on the high ground to stop the Reaper is also totally fine. I've kind of stopped doing that myself, but I mean, I'm not against it. If you want to do that, all you do is make it more annoying for the turn to scout you. And I would actually say it's probably better to do that if your build is something like DT Rush, because it makes it harder for him to scout you.
Okay.
So I actually think you should keep doing the high ground pylon stuff if you're going to go for DTs.
Okay. And then what do you do on the maps like Romanticide and stuff where you like can't wall like against the Reaper jump?
On a map like that, if the wall, like the cliffside for the Reaper, is just too big.
Shout out to Mrs. Moose.
Okay. Fruit Seller just said shout out to Mrs. Moose. I'm not sure what that means. Hell yeah, dude.
Moose from last week is my husband.
Oh yeah, okay, I got you. Yeah. I remember now. Okay, that's super cool. Hell yeah. Fruit Seller's got better memory than I do. Oh my god. But okay, so on a map that you can't jump up the cliffside, basically, I would say all I would recommend you do is probably just put like a pylon and a gateway like on the back of your mineral line and just block the Reaper from being able to rotate from left to right. So you basically make a wall from the wall of the map to like the edge of your mineral line, so that if he goes left and he'll get stuck going left, you can chase him into a corner basically, and you can just kill the Reaper. And
sounds good.
The Reaper should definitely be dead before. Ideally, it should be dead. So I can't say definitely because there will be games you'll play where he'll just get away and you'll be like, oh my god, okay, now where do I put my Dark Shrine? If that happens, just try your best to like. The best thing you can do is just everywhere the Reaper could jump, put pylons, 3, 4, 5, however many it takes, like in a vision like line across the cliff, so you can always see him as he immediately enters your base, so you get as much time on him as you can to like try and kill him.
Okay, before he sees like the Dark Shrine.
Exactly. So like. Okay. And then if it comes down to it, and you're like, okay, this guy just never loses the Reaper. If you really wanted to, you could just try and if you see, let's say the Reaper's in your base and he just got away, and your council is like halfway done, and you're getting kind of worried that he's about to spot your Dark Shrine. You can be like, all right, how about I just run a probe from my natural to like the 4th base area in the corner of the map, and I'll just build a Dark Shrine there. If you really wanted to, if you felt like you needed to proxy it, that is always an option.
Okay, sounds good.
And you could honestly. I would say you should actually do that. Maybe not every game, but maybe do it against Terran specifically, or do it like sometimes against Terran, because it'll make you less predictable if you play the same people repeatedly. So maybe, like for instance, this would be a great way to do it. If you play someone the first time, do your standard. And if you play someone again a second time, proxy your Dark Shrine. And the reason why is because you'll confuse them a lot. If they scan you and they're like, okay, well last time you went DTs and now, I don't know, because I can't see it. And I'm getting confused again.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, it'll just make it harder for your opponent to like react to what you're doing. And then ideally, you know, he doesn't see the Dark Shrine before you have DTs, because DTs is definitely going to be a surprise maneuver where that's how it's going to really get the damage done. But if you open DTs and they know it's coming and they already have all this detection and turrets, you're going to be like, wow, okay, this is not great. What do I do here? And the best thing you can do if that happens, we'll get to that point in a minute here, but the best thing you can do if you do get spotted and you actually are not getting the damage done that you want, just leave DTs at like his new expansions and don't ever run where his turrets are. Instead, just wait for him to like leave his base and just like throw 1 DT at a time at him and just make him burn scans. And again, in this situation, ideally he doesn't have a Raven, because if he does, that kind of sucks. That's not what you can do against that. for just DTs. Anyways, we'll go back to your replay and see what you're doing. Let's see what else you're doing. But again, so far your build seems fine. I like it.
Cool.
Also, you're cutting probes at 20 for a core. I like it a lot. That's really good. That's what I would say that's the more advanced version of what to do. Oops. And then your scout is good. Now, if I paused it here and looking at your perspective, okay? So you might have already seen what he's doing. Obviously, it's fine. But if you were to be playing this game again right now, and let's just say this probe has given you enough vision, what would be going through your mind right now as to like what the Terran's doing?
I would expect them to be expanding because
Okay.
they only have like one gas.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you know how much gas he's mined? Just out of curiosity.
No.
Okay, so that's totally fine. I'm not going to say that's required. I would definitely say you should. Their thought process is already correct. But check this out, okay? If you get into someone's base and you see that the barracks is like just about done, and then you click the gas, and a gas always starts with 2250.
Okay.
So you can see that it's pretty much you can tell when the gas was made based off of when the barracks was made. So you can go, okay, he's mined 40 gas, and his barracks is just about done, which means as the barracks is done, he's probably going to have just about 50. That's perfect for a Reaper expand, which is a super standard build. That is what he's going to do. It's what he should do. But if you saw, let's just say this gas, instead of the remaining gas saying 2210, if it said 2160 or something like that, then I'd be like, okay, be careful. This dude might actually be going for like a fast marine into a really fast factory. And let's just say hypothetically your probe got back to his like you took a lap around his base, saw there was only one gas, and then he put a depot down, and you never saw the natural, and the marine killed you. I'd be like, okay, be careful about like proxy factories right now, or something like that, because you might be going for like a proxy factory starport with a 111 all in. It like you can definitely tell their build based off their gas all the time.
Okay. That's good to check.
Yeah, so just all you have to do is check like the first gas, like the very first time you scout them, just like this. You can tell what their opener is. Because once someone really commits to a certain type of opener based on how early or late their gas is, it's really hard to do something else. Like, it's really hard to be like, I'm going to go gas before barracks, and then I'm just going to go command center. Because it's so expensive to do that.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so seeing this, you had the right logic, though, of going, okay, he's probably expanding. And then just trying to get your probe back to see the natural to confirm it is definitely the correct thing to do. And there you go, you see it. So, and then now you see a Reaper. So now everything, no matter what, even though you could have known this was going to happen before you even saw it, but now you've seen it, so you've absolutely confirmed it. So that's also good. It's just kind of cool if you actually get to that stage where it's little details like like seeing the gas, and you're like, oh, okay, now I know exactly what this is. And you can just predict it, so it's less surprising and it's more expected.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, so far so good. Your scout was great. Next thing you should be doing right now for sure is chrono boosting on a stalker as fast as possible, and then you could also chrono boost your nexus too. I would say chrono boosting your nexus right now is, if you don't do it, it's fine. If you do it, it's fine. And the reason why, I would say until your stalker came out. The reason why is because if you chrono boosted your main nexus right at the same time you chrono boosted the stalker, you will get probes out faster. So there's nothing really wrong with it. But if you do that and you know there's a Reaper on the map, I would say probably rally your main nexus to your main mineral line just for a second. Because if you really get a fast probe out to your natural and the Reaper just shows up and kills it, you'd be like, oh, well, that sucks. I made him super fast just to die.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, so if you chrono, just rally to the main, and then once your stalker's out, then you can rally back to the natural and just rip the probe off the main to go back to 16 out of 16 probes. And then you'll be good to go. But Sentry second, yeah, your build's great so far. Everything looks super good. I would say, looking at it now, so you canceled the gateway at your natural, and I would honestly say probably just let that keep going. But you could maybe make it a tad bit later, but just pair that gateway with your council. And the reason why is because if you only go for a 1 gate opener. Okay, also here, check this out too. So you almost killed that Reaper, which is, you know, obviously you wanted to kill it. It'd be nice. And then for future reference, for that Reaper to jump up the cliff, the only reason why is because, like, if you look at the cliff side, there's like a little lip of that cliff on the right side of your core. So if you made a pylon there, you'd probably full wall that. On the right. But talking about the Reaper, how to kill it specifically, the best thing to do is, once again, if you know the Reaper's coming, and you could tell this based off the gas. If your probe like got out of his base before the Reaper killed the probe, you'd probably know, okay, Reaper's most likely on its way. But the best thing you can do, in my opinion, is leave your sentry like at the high ground to smack the Reaper like you just did. The sentry placement was perfect. Stalker placement, I would say leave it at the top of the ramp in your main base. So like just, you know, just like that top of the grass part. And if you see the Reaper coming, and your pylon placement, by the way, is perfect. I love your pylon placement, because the pylon placement of your natural allows you to not only wall that, but you can see the Reaper before it actually hits your probes in your nexus. And then the pylon placement is also trying to, you know, in the main base is trying to, for the core in the gateway, it's just trying to block for scouting. So if your stalker was at the top of the ramp, you could do a more or less like a stutter step, where you just a move command, a move command. And the way that works, just simply put, I hope I'm gonna make this. I hope this is not going to sound convoluted and it'll make sense. But to attack someone perfectly with stutter step, the perfect way to do it is to move in the weapon speed of the unit. And what that means is if you attack the Reaper one time, you can move or stand still. They both do the exact same thing, but moving is better because you can make distance on the Reaper. For 1.34 seconds, if you look at the Stalker's weapon and you mouse over it, you can see it's 1.34. If you move for 1.34 seconds and then you attack again, you can make distance and then perfectly attack again and then move for 1.34. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but if you just move with the Reaper as he jumps in your base, you can kill it before he gets to your mineral line, guaranteed. Because he'll take a second to like jump up the cliff, and that buys you time to hit him like 3 times. And then the sentry adding an extra DPS will add that, like, you can hit him again with your Stalker and he'll die.
Okay, so I just normally like right click on the Reaper. So you're saying I should do like the stutter stepping towards it?
I would say you should definitely do that, especially if your build is Deception and Dark Templar.
Okay.
Because you'll kill the Reaper a lot more often if you do this. And if the Terran loses the Reaper, he's going to either waste economy to scan you, because now he's going to feel uncomfortable, so he won't spin mules as easy. Or if he straight up just misses the fact that, like, let's say he even scans you and he doesn't even see the Dark Shrine, suddenly you're like, oh, well, you don't really know if I'm going DTs or not, and he has to question everything, and it makes it confusing. So another thing to do as well, I would say, that would be good for you, is... so this is so now we've talked about the Reaper, but we'll talk about DT Shrine placement, because again your whole build's centered around that, for the idea of that. I would say either the main base or the natural would be fine, but put your, maybe like the first pylon you make after you start the Twilight Council on the edge of your base. Like, put it literally on the edge of either the far left side of your base or like the far right side of your base. So we're talking like the far right in your natural on like the bottom right cliff, or the far left, maybe in the upper left cliff, or like the very, probably not behind your mineral line, but probably like upper left cliff, because mineral line usually gets scouted because they usually scout the Nexus with like a scan. This way, what it'll do is it just increases the chances that if he scans your base, the Dark Shrine isn't just like right next to the council, which is in the center. It's more on the side, so it'll miss scan sometimes.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, the best thing you... Mila, stop. Oh my God, I'm just going to close my door. 1 second, sorry.
No worries.
The best thing you can do is definitely just keep your opponent guessing what you're doing. That'll make him make way more mistakes.
Cool.
All right, and then Robo Dark Shrine. And you can put the Robo, I would say definitely put the Robo next to your council. Only because if a player doesn't know how to read the build properly, it'll make them feel confused again, where they could be like, okay, maybe it's going to be Immortals now, or maybe it's going to be some type of a Robotech. I'm not sure. Maybe it's going to be a Charge Lot all in. It'll just make them feel more confused.
So maybe they won't think that there's another piece of tech.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you show them Robo and you show them Council, if they really know what they're doing, they will probably, they'll probably know, okay, Prism with Council tech. Like, that's what it will probably be. So it could be anything between Zealots, Stalkers, Adepts, or DTs. But a lot of people don't actually, surprisingly, a lot of people do not know that. A lot of people feel super confused when they play against Protoss, and they're like, I don't know what he's doing. He could be doing anything. This could be Sky Toss. Like, no, there is no Stargate. But, yeah, like, if you see if they see Dark Shrine, though, everyone will see Dark Shrine and be like, oh, DTs. Because that's like a very definitive structure. Like, you just know what it is. So if you just hide that structure, it makes your build, it'll have so much more, like, success rate, I feel like, because people just won't fully expect it.
Okay.
But yeah, anyways, your gateway placement is good. Your tech path order is good. The only thing about your build that will change and make it a little bit better is your gas timing at your natural is a little late. If you're gonna rush DTs like this.
Yeah, I take those late like almost every game. I run into that problem a lot.
Sure. So there's actually two ways we can make your build, and you can tell me either way works. But if you want late gases, it still could work if you do a specific type of build, in my opinion. And it would be something like this. And you could actually use both builds like this. You could rotate like versions of your build, so it's not always the same thing. It's a little bit more complicated that way because then you have to learn multiple builds of the same style. But I'll explain what would make sense. So if you go for a build that is what you have here, which is delayed gas, you could actually do what you're doing right now, which is adding in charge really early. And you could, what I would say now is, if you're going to go for a charge version early like this, you should be going up to like 7 gateways. And what you could do, which would be really cool, is you could like warp in as many zealots as possible while you're getting ready to do an attack, and you would have a prism as well. You could do a bunch of zealots like in his front door of his base, and then let's say you warped in only like, you could only afford about 3 to maybe 4 DTs, probably 3 realistically by the time you get to his base, and those could be inside the prism. And then as you run into his front door with all your previous warp-ins, so maybe it's like 12 zealots, you get his attention there, and at the exact same time you get his attention there, you fly into his main base and you unload the DTs, phase the prism, and you just start spamming charge lots in his main base. Those DTs run into his, maybe you send like only 1 DT at his army. So if like, we're talking like, if you just drag them down to the natural, his army will be in the natural, and he's going to come right back up the ramp to, stop your prism. But then what if you send like, let's say 1 DT at his ramp to actually smack his army so you can make him burn a scan, and your other 2 DTs run into the mineral line in the main base, and they just start wrecking SCVs like crazy. And then you just keep spamming zealots, and if he scans and kills your DT, pull one of your DTs off the mineral line in his main base and run at his army as soon as the scan's over, and make him burn another scan. And if he has no scans, you'd probably just win the game.
Okay, cool. That sounds fun.
Yeah. So that could be a way you could all in with it, and that could keep your opponent confused because he doesn't know what to expect fully. Another way you could play this is you could open, if you want to go late gas, is you could go for a third base super fast. So what we would be doing instead is right about now, right about like 4:30 to like 5 minutes, you could be taking a probe off the mineral line, and then just not actually taking your gas until you make the third base, and then you take your gas. So going for like a 3-gate opener with a prism and DTs just to be annoying, it would be great. And then you could, instead of like committing your DTs to aggression, you instead would just not even phase the prism at all. You also wouldn't get charge. You would go for just straight up all your gas going into DTs as fast as you could. So the second the Dark Shrine's done, your prism's already kind of where your Hallucinating Phoenix would be right now. Like, you're already over there, and you just you phase in, warp in 3 DTs, fly into his base. And you just like poke his units. And as soon as he like either has something there to kill you or scans you, you load into the prism and you fly away to like the edge of the map where he can't chase you. And then you just wait. And then behind this, you already have a third base started. You're just like keeping him contained while you're macroing up. And then from there, you can trade it. You can transition into anything you want to do.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's closer to what I normally do. I normally don't get charged this early. I just think I don't know why I got it this game.
Sure, that's fine.
I did.
I would say it's always good to get it. It's just if you want to get charged after going for like a third base, that'd be a better version. I normally
get like the third base and then the charge, but
okay.
I think I just like saw I was floating a bunch of gas and kind of panicked.
Sure.
So I just went ahead and got it.
Yeah, that's cool. It's I mean, it would make sense if you're all-inning, but if you're gonna macro to a third, you should just take a third first.
Just
and then
take
go
a
for
third
it.
first.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then behind that, if you do go for a third base against Terran, I would say a really good army for you just to make would like what actually, like, you tell me first, then I'll give you an idea after. But what would you do if you normally went for a third here, and then compositionally, what would you follow it up with if you open DTs, and then what would you go into after?
Just Charge Lot, Archon Immortal.
Okay.
And then sometimes I add like the Colossus.
Yeah, that makes sense.
After
great.
I have some Immortals.
So cool. That actually sounds totally fine. I would have, that's literally what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. I would recommend. I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm not sure how often you run into like Banshee players or like Air players that much in Diamond. But if you do contain your opponent on a smaller economy and then you just go charge the Archon Immortal, it'll be super effective.
Okay.
And then you can always just make, like, you can just get Blink and get Stalkers, I guess, if he goes for air, and you'd be fine. Or you could just add on Stargates if you really want to, but I think Blink would be a faster rotation if it came to that, and then you'd be good to go.
Okay, cool.
And then the last thing, I'll just say this one really fast. The last build you could do, I would say this is probably the one, if you wanted to just change up between the Charge Lot all-in and then the fast third base version, both of those would be totally fine. And you could just make those your builds. But if you wanted to add in another one, like a third version, you could do the extra gas at your natural. But if you do this, you should be pairing this with 4 gateways. And the reason why it should be 4 specifically is because if you go for 4 gas, you could sustain 4 DT really fast, like, production. And also 4 DTs is the size of the Warp Prism of, like, the full capacity. So you could actually do maximum damage with DTs with the extra DT in there, which would, it would just increase the potential for you to do tons of damage early if he's not prepared for DTs. But I actually think that the 2 gas version, realistically, it'll probably be better for you if you do DTs a lot. And the reason why is because it's less all in and less committed. Like, it doesn't need to get as much damage done as the 4 gas version with 4 DTs.
Okay.
Yeah, the 4 gas version is just going to put you in a position where, like, if your DTs get denied and you're like, oh, well, he's ready, and I did nothing, you're going to be like, well, I'm super far behind now because I over-invested into this and it didn't do a thing.
When would I get those gases, though?
You would get the gases after your third. Either never if you all in with charge lots, or after the third with a standard build.
Okay. And if I wanted to do, like, the 4 gate, you would get it like at half saturation?
Oh, sorry, I got you. Yeah, sorry, I thought you were asking a different question. But yeah, if you're gonna do the 4 gate version of it, you would want to take the gases roughly around like 10 to 12 probes in the middle line, probably like 10, about half to a little bit more than half, and then that way, as your Dark Shrine is under construction, you start cranking out double gas on your natural, and your natural will probably be at like. Once again, once the gases are done, you'll go back down to like 8 out of 16 probes on the middle line to fully saturate your gases. But this will allow you to have 500 gas, which is what you need right as your Dark Shrine's done to be able to warp in 4 DTs at once and then fly into his base.
Okay, cool.
All right, and then because that Reaper is just doing some work here, but he's gonna die now.
Yeah.
It's all good. Whenever that kind of stuff happens, just definitely try your best really quickly to fix your mineral lines, and then I don't Actually, you have everything in control group right now. I can tell because you have 8, and the Prism is one of the 8 units you have. So in a situation like that, I would say if you do actually make a select all army and then hit control 1 or something, just make sure that the Prism would not be in your army, and instead make sure that Prism just is like for this build essentially, that Prism needs to be across the map as soon as possible. Otherwise,
Okay.
If this is like, if this happened to you a lot, if you were like, if this was like, you know, your average game where you're like, oh well, this happens like 8 out of 10 times, I'd be like, well, okay, maybe do a different build, because it's the reason why is because if that Prism doesn't go across the map, this whole build puts you behind super hard. Like you have to try to do damage for sure.
Okay.
All right, so it's heading over now, and also the big thing too is the thing that a lot of players that play StarCraft get really confused on is, even though it's going across the map now, the Prism could have been across the map at his base by like 5 minutes, and now it's getting across the map by like probably 6:30. So it's like it's just so much. It'll feel so much harder to get damage done the more time you give your opponent to react to it.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. You'll be like, wait, is my build bad now, or like what's happening? Why is this so difficult at this point? And it's just because if people don't think about time as much like that, and if the timing is just super late. Like for instance, if we look at this, you showed up his base at like 6:27, right? And he's got a turret and a bunker and a Raven. But let's just say hypothetically, if you got to his base at like 5 minutes, now look at his base. There is no Raven, there is no turret, like, and there also is no scan.
Okay, yeah, I see.
Yeah, and look at your Dark Shrine. So your Prism, if it was already where that, like, the edge of his cliff, because you can make that Prism, and that's why also I agreed with what your build was when you went Council, Robo, then Dark Shrine. Your Robo's been done for a while, so make sure you make that a priority. When the Robo's finished, you make a Prism right away, and you rally it across the map, because that Prism should be at his base as the Dark Shrine finishes.
Oh, okay.
And then Dark Shrine finishes, and suddenly you're warping in, like, as he before he drops you with Medivacs. Let's just say he drops you with 4 Hellions in your natural, and then the Reaper runs in your main, and you don't actually warp in these 3 Stalkers in your main, and instead your Stalkers in the natural just attack his Medivac and Hellions, because the Reaper is going to do a lot less damage than the Hellions would. And then suddenly you have on the edge of his main base, you make a few DTs, and you just walk them, one of them into like his natural, and like 2 of them into his main mineral line.
Yeah.
And then he kills like 12 probes, but you kill all of his SCVs, and he's like fucking dead. That's what normally would happen.
That would probably have gone better.
Yeah, right. Just know that is the biggest priority of your entire build, is that Prism going across the map immediately, and then it comes back as well. So that's the select army thing. So I mean, it's tough for you, because now he saw the Dark Shrine in that fight, and now he starts preparing at this point to make detection, where he's got the Raven in production, and he's gonna start a turret in just a second, and he's making a Viking too to like really punish the Prism. So that.
Yeah, I wanted to show you this one because it definitely did not go very well.
Exactly. I'm glad you did.
With this one.
I'm glad you did, because it makes it more aware to talk about what I just talked about, where like that is actually what's super important, because there's opportunity that gets missed. So I'm glad you used this one. It's really good. And then we'll speed it up now a little bit, because the build is kind of set in stone now. So because you really can't do much about it. You kind of just got to work with what you got at this point. But I like your choices, like you said, of like your tech path. The only thing I would say I would change about your build here now is I like the Robo Bay, super good choice at this point. I would say you could probably get away with maybe like 3 Immortals, 2 to 3 Immortals would be totally fine. You could go Colossus. That way you don't get all in by some counter shove on your 3rd base, like before you actually have Colossus. So I think that's great. Double Forges are totally fine. I think that's great. The 4 gates though, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I think if you actually do the 3 gate 2 gas version you opened with, and then you take a 3rd, I think if you take more gates, you should literally take only like 1 more gate, just for now.
Okay.
And then what you would want to do is you have, again, choices where once your 3rd base is fully saturated, or it's very close to fully saturated, you have 2 choices where you could do this. Do I want to go for a 3 base timing now and then I add on a bunch of gates when I'm fully saturated on the third, or like when I'm almost like it doesn't have to be all 22 probes or like both gases and full mineral line, but we're talking at least like the mineral line is like 13 or 14 probes on it. You could be like, okay, well now I can make like an extra amount of gateways to go all the way up to a total of like 8 gates. So you could make like 4 more gates on top of your existing 4 that take you to 8, or you could take a 4th base. Either one of those would work. And then if you take a 4th base and you go all the way to that like 80 probe saturation for a super baller economy, you could just make even more gates and go to a total of like 12 gates or like 10 gates with the 4th base. But it would just be a later timing.
Okay, so you would take 4 gates until you have your 4th base down, and then you go up to a total of 12?
Yeah, I would say 3 gates. 3 gates for like 2 base would be good. And like 4 gates for your initial, like you would take like the 3rd base, and then you take double forge and like your robo bay and like 1 more gate. All those could go down at the same time. But you don't actually explode your gateway count until you know you're going to stop making probes. So that you can stop making probes off of a 3rd or a 4th. But exploding your gateway count now and then still like starting to make probes for your 3rd, it just kind of fucks you over. Because now you're going to have a lot of idle time on your gateway or on your nexus. It's just going to be really up and down at this point now. Because it's just too expensive that before you can afford it. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Just know that like 4 gate is pretty, like 3 gate opener for you could be totally fine if you do the double gas thing, because you actually can't sustain 4 gate DT with that. But going into a 4 gate for a 3rd or a 4th base initially would totally work. And then you just, because it'll happen so fast. Because at this point now, you're not just working with like 12 probes on your main mineral line to start it with. You're working with like 50 probes off of your 2 bases, and you're also making probes at a faster pace. So your economy is going to explode super quick. So if you do pick the economy route, where you're like, I'm not going to explode my gates until after my probes are good, it won't be that. It'll literally be like 30 seconds. And then you'll be like, okay, now we'll make my gates. And that those 30 seconds, it's just going to make it to where there's no hiccups in your build, to where there's like for instance, like right now where you're cutting probes and you're making a bunch of gates, and then you go back into making probes after and stuff like that. Like it'll just feel like it flows really well, and you'll always feel like you can afford everything you're trying to do.
Okay, cool.
I do love your scouting though. Like the fact that this is what I said about the DTs. I was like, if you don't get damage done, leave them at the 3rds, and you're doing that exactly.
So apparently this time I sent out my sentry instead of my actual Phoenix.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I see. It's going to just walk into a tank and die. I'm here! That's funny.
I was wondering what happened to that.
Yeah. Okay, you actually play, you're playing very, so there's a Raven, but your concept, your idea is perfect. Everything I recommended you to do, you're already doing it in the replay, so that's, you have that down, like you have the idea down. You want to burn scans, because if you keep his scan energy low and he doesn't make a Raven, that's best case scenario. But as soon as he does have Raven, you obviously want to just be like, okay, DTs now will just be like, every time there's a fight happening, maybe I run a couple of them behind your base, and you might not realize it, and I suddenly get a whole mineral line kill, and maybe even a command center kill. But other than that, that's all DTs would do at that point. They just counterattack. That's all they do. Then you never want to use them in the army until you kill that Raven. And then you can start using DTs again in the actual army. Another thing to do too, I would say, is once you actually switch gears and you start going into like Colossus and your upgrades, all that stuff, I would definitely recommend upgrading Blink on DTs. And the reason why is like, so it's a very late game thing. It's not something you rush. You get it after you're done making your probes, basically, and like everything else is kind of done. Because now you're switching gears to focus on Charge the Archon Immortal with Zealots and things like that normally. I mean with Colossus. But if you get Blink DT when you're late game and you have like good army compositions overall, if you realize, okay, my opponent has like a turret and maybe a bunker, or like a turret and a planetary, if you just move your army into his army wherever the fight's happening, and let's say you know where his expansion is and you have DTs just outside, and you think to yourself, okay, well, as soon as this fight starts, it'll probably take me like 6 seconds to move my DTs from where they are to where his economy is. You could then blink on directly on top of the turret, immediately like insta-gib the turret, just kill it right away, and now he loses detection. And if he's paying attention to the army because he's trying to like stutter step against your Colossus Zealot composition with Archons and stuff like that, you have a very high chance of wiping a base out. But if you don't get blink and you walk towards the turret, there's a good chance that a bunker full of stuff, or maybe he'll pull SCVs for a second because you give him more time to react, where he could actually shut it down. But blink makes you. Blink just makes those counterattacks to DTs ridiculously powerful.
So to do that, you would just blink towards it and then right click like on the turret.
Yeah, you will You don't want to right click just because right click will cancel the blink. So if you hit, it would be just B left click, because left click will like tell the units to like blink to that location, and they would just do it. But the blink range is just about the same as the stalkers, so it's not super far. It's like if you look at like your natural and your third, and you can see like the tip of the ramp at your natural, and then the tip of the ramp at your third, where like that railing is. That's about how far the blink would go. And then you could just blink like that far onto a missile turret, and then suddenly, like, if you have the missile turret has like 250 hit points. So if you have 5 DTs, insta kill a turret. So 5 DTs could be your go-to number, where you're like 5 insta kills turrets. So I just have 5 selected, all blink on the turret, click the turret, and so you could do B left click, right click. So B left click would be you blink on the turret, and then you right click the turret right after to make sure they all hit the turret. And then the turret would insta die. No matter what he has there, the turret would die before your DTs die. As long as your DTs don't die on the way to blinking on the turret. And then if that's all he has, just like one turret, which a lot of people will do. Like you can see, he just made only one turret for his main and natural. This is super standard. Very few people will make multiple turrets unless you have air. So if you just kill that one turret, suddenly, and he doesn't realize not to scan because he's too busy dealing with your army, that could win you the game so many times, because you'll be like, wow, I just killed a brand new economy, and now he's fucked because we just reset each other's armies mid-map, but now he's only got like 1 base mining and I have like 3, because he's just, I keep killing his expansions.
Yeah, that's why I like the Dark Templars.
Yeah, no, that's what they're super good at. Like they're still viable late game because of blink now. It's insane. And you could even take it one step further, where you could actually take a warp prism to his main base, and you could warp in a bunch of charge lots with like 2 DTs and just start wrecking his base and being super annoying during fights. But last thing I'll say about this, just concept, just know you should never counterattack him with DTs or zealots until he's fighting you. So it's always a thing where like you always want to do it during a fight. So you could actually get in the habit of being that dirty Protoss A mover, what every turn says they are. You fucking A move race. And you could always be like, yeah, and now I'm also microing. You micro against my army, that's fine, and I will put units all over your base. So after the fight's over, every time your recovery is really fast and his recovery is really, really bad. Alright, we'll really super speed it up now. Just because now it's just going to be concepts of like attacking where to go. And at this point, like I said before, it would be just take fights with him, counterattack his base. Take fights, counterattack his base. Over and over and over. And it doesn't have to be a lot of counterattack. It could be like 2 DTs. Like if you know he doesn't have turrets everywhere, it could be like 1 or 2 DTs, and suddenly it'll be super annoying. Or like 1 warp pit of zealots in his main base with a prism. Just little tiny counterattacks. So if your counterattacks are bigger than 20 supply, you're probably investing too much.
Okay, that's a good number.
Yeah. Like 20 supply is max, and 10 supply is minimum, I would say. For like good
so 10 to
counterattacks.
20.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're doing the minimum, you could do like 5 DTs. If you're doing the maximum, you could do like maybe like 8 zealots and like 2 DTs. Because if you overinvest in the counterattacks, it'll just make your army weaker, so that when you do actually A-move him, your army just has a high chance of dying. And if your army dies, that's and you just get demolished, you're definitely gonna have a bad day there. Okay, so that fight here, let's check this out. So think about stuff like this. So you go here, and you know he has a sensor tower. So you know that he's going to have you know that he's going to be ready for you because there's a sensor tower here. Now, if you wanted to make this really annoying for Terran, the best thing I would say you could do, and like this is assuming that you're not counterattacking anymore. This is assuming you're trying to set up a fight. What you could do that would be super annoying for Terran to deal with is imagine if you just didn't overcommit to this fight, but because you have Storm, or you actually don't have Storm, but ideally you should.
I think those are just not.
Yeah. Ideally you would, right? You'd be like, well,
yeah.
the right ideas there. They're there. But if you had Storm, Archon, Colossus, and Immortal, and a few Stalkers, we're disregarding your Zealots right now. What you could do that would be super good is imagine if you had all your Zealots on the left side of the map, outside of the vision of his sensor tower. So you basically like look at like your pylon, like little net you have, and like, let's just talk about like the middle pylon on like the white deserty floor. Like if you ran straight up from that, just barely out of sensor tower radius, and you ran to his 4th base. But you do that after you get his attention at his 3rd base. Because again, what you're trying to do is you're setting up a fight on him. And when you set up a fight on Terran, it's not even just Terran. Whenever you set up a fight in general on your opponent, it's usually good if you can do some type of economy damage while you're just trying to like sit around here and wait. So what if you got his attention at his base, at his 3rd base, you show your Colossus Stalker all this stuff first. You poke like the depot wall, maybe you kill a tank or two, because this is not enough DPS to like kill your army right now. This is just 2 tanks and a bunker and a couple Widow Mines. You could make his army come down to his 4th base, or his 3rd, and it would expose his 4th base, and then you could do a counterattack with your Zealots onto his 4th base. And he has to make a choice then. Do I want to stay here and defend my 3rd, or do I want to go defend those Zealots at my 4th? And you could actually let all those Zealots die, and it wouldn't matter. Like you could just see what they get done. And if the Terran doesn't, if he actually also, like he's doing a good job of walling his 4th off, but if that wall wasn't even there, you would just run right into that mineral line and probably kill the planetary and like all the SCVs. So stuff like that will be great ways for you to set up fights whenever your opponent's being turtly.
So how do you get their attention, I guess?
So all you would do is like those 2 pylons you have on the white, you just leave them there. Like, or you would leave your Zealots there for a second. Just leave the Zealots idle there. You would only control group everything but the Zealots. So a quick tip on how to do that would be if you have all your army in control group 1, and then you you could even do it right now where you just, let's say you green box your entire army right now, and you could see that there's 2 Templars, 6 Stalker, 4 Colossus, like 7 Archon, 1 Immortal, and then just 4 Zealots in the first page. If you hold shift and control and click a Zealot, it deletes all the Zealots from your control group, and then you could rebind that down to control 1 or something like that.
Okay.
Or one way you could do it as well is you could go like this. You could go back to the previous selection you just had where you have all of it selected, and you could control click a Zealot. So now you have only the Zealots subgroup selected. So now you have 18 Zealots, and you could hit Alt 2 or something, just to like.
Yeah, I think that's what I normally do.
That works as well.
That's deal.
It's totally fine. So now you could have Zealots on 2, everything else on 1, and you could just poke his depots or poke his tanks. You don't overcommit. You always like. Imagine if like your back is at the exit, like the door, and you're just like poking and going back to the door, poking and going back to the door, so that he can't get behind you and lock you in.
Okay.
So you be annoying. You're like your Colossus poke his depots in his command center or some shit like that. Like your whole army could do it, but you always have the idea where you poke him and you back up. Poke him, like you just always have that retreating mentality. So you just want to get his attention for him to walk towards you, and he totally will. And then as soon as you see, what's up?
I said okay.
Oh, I thought you went. I think you were like, oh, it's like something else. But okay, so you just get his attention, and he comes down and he tries to like take an engagement with you. And as soon as he gets there, you just retreat. Like you just have the intention to not fight him, and you just run away. And if he chases you, you can kite where you like attack, move, walk away, attack, move, walk away. So every time you do this, your Colossus just like roast his army, but you keep always retreating the whole time. And then as soon as you see his army's out of position, you just take control group 2 and you go Zealots and move his 4th base. Because you knew it existed before, because you just saw him kill your DTs there with scan, and he was like floating a command center over. So you have the idea where you just drag him away from his newest base and you go counter it with Zealots.
Okay.
And you could just, and that this is if you would, this is a great way to take the fight if your opponent's being turtley. So otherwise, if he's not being turtley and he's attacking you, you could always counterattack with like the 20 supply or less rule we talked about.
Okay, that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
So if they're like being turtley, I want to like draw their attention away and attack with the zealots.
Yeah.
And then
yep.
if they're attacking me, I want to counterattack with like the warp prism.
Yeah.
Stuff.
And the reason why you can counterattack with zealots is because they're very replaceable and they're very cheap. And they can do a lot of damage if they're not defended properly.
Yeah, I think they're my second favorite unit.
Yeah, like they will murder a planetary fortress if he's not there.
Okay.
So that would be a great way to just set up fights if your opponent is not doing it for you. If he's being too defensive, you could just set it up on him that way. And if it works a few times where you're like, okay, cool, you're now on 3 bases still, and I'm on 6, which is, that would be what the case would be right now if you killed the 4th. That would be great because you'd be like, cool, that's now amazing. And it would be a lot better than a fight like this. Like now we're going to watch what happened. And some of your army gets caught on the 3rd and some of your army engages his ball of bio. And this just goes, it just goes really, I would say, super inefficient for you because what you don't want to do, you never want to have a situation where the fight happens where your power units, which is everything that costs gas, essentially, like Archons, Colossus, Templar, Immortal, these are all power units. You don't ever want them to take a fight against his whole army when your army is split. And it'll happen if you take fights where you just rush the fight where you're like, okay, well, let's just attack him in general. Let's attack his side of the map. And then a lot of your units, like you have 4 Colossus getting caught on supply depots. And then all your Archons are kind of just going fucking Rambo on that bio. Yeah, because if your army was together right there, you would have destroyed his army.
Yeah.
You probably will still win the fight, but like there was a lot of losses for both sides because of that. And then yeah, it would just, and then yeah, if you were like always having that idea of just non-committal fights with, because think about this too. This is the big concept that will make a lot of sense if you think about it this way. So let's just say you did the fight the way we're talking about, where you forced him to come to the 3rd and you attacked his 4th with zealots, and let's say you do damage one way or another. And now the Terran feels pressured to now no longer be turtling, and now he attacks you. Well, then you go right back into that first phase you were doing of counterattacks. And now you only send like a couple of DTs or a couple of zealots at his base. And now when you fight his army, he's in the more wide open area, and he doesn't have depots and command centers and bunkers and shit to like distract your army with when you're like attacking towards him. And now your whole army will engage his whole army. And if your whole army engaged him just a second ago, you would have crushed him.
Okay.
So the idea is you want him to leave his base. You want him, he's like a turtle, right? And you want him to come out of his shell, and then you can squash him. So that's why you want to only lose units that are very replaceable.
Okay, and that's like the zealots.
Exactly. Zealots are the most replaceable unit Pros has, because they are just pure minerals, and minerals are ridiculous how fast you can make them in this game. And then even better, let's just say this too. What if you actually lost all your zealots and you had a massive wave of, like you had just like a big bank. You have like 5,000 minerals and like 4,000 gas because you're mining like a champion. You're like, I'm rich. And you have, let's say you just lost like 18 zealots and you have like 15 gateways or something like that. What if you knew he was going to push you because you just put him into an all-in because you just watched the zealots die as they killed his last economy structure? What if you did something even crazy and you just warped in all those zealots that just died into new DTs or something like that, and they had blink, and now the next time you take a fight with him, you now have your whole army that exists with like the Archon, Storm, Colossus, but now you have like 18 DTs that are going to blink into his army as the fight starts, and your DPS is like off the charts, really, really, really high, and his army just gets immediately deleted. Like that's kind of that's stuff that could also totally happen too. Like you could just wreck his army like that's super hard if you know that's always like an option. You don't obviously have to do that. That's just like a thing you could do. That's like Myrna Flare, where it's like, oh look at me with those DTs. You like that? All right, so I kind of got an idea. So now I'm gonna give you an option where would you like to see So there's 3 builds we're talking about, right? And they're all going to transition into the same thing. But would you like to see the 2 gas opener of like the charge lot? So I guess the charge all in won't be the same thing. That'll be its own thing. We could actually, I tell you what, we could do a charge lot version and also one of the macro versions. We could do the 2 gas macro version or the 3 gas macro version. Or sorry, the 2 gas macro version or the 4 gas macro version where it's like the 4 gate earlier with the 4 DTs. Just know that if you pick the 2 gas one, it'll definitely macro faster. If you pick the 4 gas one, it'll macro slower, but you'll have more potential to do more damage, but it requires you to micro a lot more, like multitask micro.
Yeah, I think the 2 gas one would be better.
All right, so let's actually jump out of this game.
Okay.
And then, so you have some ideas on how to play the mid game and the late game and just the general concepts about what is going on. But I'll go ahead and re-invite you to the party really fast, and I will make a game. And okay. All right, so this one I'll just show you the really quick all-in version, and then this one won't take that long, and then we'll go into the macro one right after.
Okay, cool.
Oh. And if you want to do, I'll actually show you a way where you could do it.
What's up, ViBE?
Yo, thank you for the sub, Juve Pro. Thank you. I'll show you in a way where you can proxy. So it can be just like super obnoxious, and you can make this like rotate into your build cycle against Terran, where you can just be like, well, sometimes I will and sometimes I won't proxy, and it'll keep you on your toes. You won't know what I'm doing.
Perfect.
Alright, so we're going to go for that pylon. And then also, if you have any questions during this, feel free to ask. It's totally fine. Just so, like, you know, if there's anything you're confused about or thinking about.
Okay.
And then we can throw down a gas, and now we can just go scout his base. And, you know, like, this would be that normal thing where we just, what you saw last game, where you're, like, looking for the Reaper expand or the gas or super standard scouting. The AI will not be cooperating, though. It'll do some weird shit. So we'll just pretend like it's a Reaper expand. Okay, and then we'll put a probe on our gas. We'll now rally probe 20. Like, I don't even need to tell you about this. Your opener was perfect. You actually nailed it perfectly. Everything you did was really good for that. But yeah, now it's going to be, after I start the council, the scouting probe will proxy.
Okay.
So I'll scout him, be like, cool, Reaper expand or whatever, get out of here. And then we can come back and build our core. And we can now start gas number 2. And scouting probe can go to like the edge of the map somewhere, wherever you want it to be, like top left, bottom right. We'll go bottom right. Doesn't really matter though. Just as long as you hide it. And then we can do second pylon in the main, just to initially show, like, you could straight up, if you really want to get out of his base really fast, you could straight up put second pylon across the map and proxy the council as well. That is also an option. But if for like a really, really standard version, we'll just put council in the base.
Okay.
That way you can have a fast second pylon in case your scout stays a little bit longer. Because it is all based off of the scout. Like, if you stay too long in his base, you'll be super behind. And here's the crazy part with this build, okay? So this is the one part where it'll be a little bit different, and this is how you can tell, okay, I need to remember this. Do not get warp gate if you're going to go council first. Get warp gate after council.
Oh, okay.
And then after council, you can go into a robo and then a dark shrine. And we can chrono boost. And then you could actually start chrono boosting your warp gate after because you're trying to get a really fast council first, so you want to get council as a priority. And then council's now done, so now we're gonna go into a and you also don't make sentry stalker. You just make like the one stalker and you call it a day.
Okay.
Because this is super all in. and then you would make a Dark Shrine proxied, and you can make more gates proxied. So we have 1 gate already, and now we're gonna make a bunch of gates down here at our proxy. And then now our next gas is gonna go into charge, and now you can chrono boost your charge upgrade. And now as soon as you have enough minerals for it, we're gonna go into a prism. So we can, like, if you're struggling, oh, what the fuck? I just got scouted by the AI. I literally scouted bottom right. Okay. Damn, this is on point. You can chrono boost out your prism, and just throw all, like, 1 chrono of the prism, and then all the rest of your chronos go back on the gateway. Or I mean, sorry, okay. on the council for a charge, because DTs will be done.
Okay, so you only chrono the probes twice, like the first 2.
Hold on. You know what? I'm sorry. Let's I'm gonna leave this game only because I just realized what I'm doing. I'm like, wait, what am I doing? We're doing an all-in with charge lots. That's what we're doing, and I should not be going to 4 gases. I don't know why I'm going 4 gases, but yeah, I was showing you like the version that the only one we said we would not do. So my bad. Let's do that again really fast.
No worries.
I was like, wait, why am I so poor right now? I'm like, oh, why am I taking 4 gases? I don't understand what the hell I'm doing. All right.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So we'll get a restart here. My bad. So yeah. Anyways, it's the concept is you would just go for Are you in the game? You're not.
No. I guess
right.
No.
There we go. I got you. I got you. Right here. There. Okay. So I'll just say this because this is where like my brain was all over the place, and I'll just say the concept in general. The idea is we want to get the fastest possible Dark Shrine we can, which means we're going to skip Warp Gate and we're going to go for an immediate Council and then an immediate Dark Shrine right after. And then we're going to be making a ton of gateways right after, and we're still going to saturate our mineral line to 16 probes on the natural, so we have a ton of minerals to work with. So the builder is going to be something like this. It's going to be like Gateway, Nexus, Core, super standard, and then it's going to be immediate Council with then a Robo and then a Dark Shrine, and then every little bit of gas we can get off of 2 gases, and also charge after. So charge is the last thing we get. But then every bit of gas we can do after that will be DTs. Otherwise, it's pure charge lots, pure charge lots, pure charge lots, and pylons. Okay. And that's the idea. So it's the fastest DTs we can get, because we're not doing an all-in with charge lots. We're doing an all-in with DTs followed up with charge lots. So fastest DTs possible is the best thing to do here for the most like power with this push.
Okay. And how many gates do you make total?
We're gonna make about 7. That's why I was like, I could not afford that. I was like, why do I have no money? Oh my god, well, probably shouldn't mind this much gas. All right.
Take 2.
Yep, my bad. That's the autopilot right there. We saw autopilot ViBE doing a build where I'm just like, okay, this build sucks. I gotta do it again. All right. So, scouting probe once again can build all your proxy stuff, and you can hide it. Again, the proxy probe though, you can do it or not do it. If it feels confusing and you're like, okay, this is getting awkward, you can just build it in your base. It's fine. It's gonna happen fast either way. But if you proxy it, if you get more comfortable with it and you start proxying it, that also totally works. Because
that seems fun.
Yeah, it'll just keep your opponent really confused. Okay, so we'll throw down our gas and then we'll go scout. Alright, and now we are going to get our Nexus going. And then Stalker still always make the Stalker though. So don't skip the Stalker too. You could skip the Stalker if you wanted to be really crazy greedy. Like if you actually scouted, okay, this guy's not making a Reaper, you could actually skip the Stalker. But if he's doing a Reaper, definitely don't skip it, because if you skip the Stalker, you're just gonna start losing probes, and things will start falling apart. So scout. Okay, we're like, oh, Reaper expand, cool. Now we're gonna go back to making that Stalker. And the probe is already headed over towards the proxy location. And again, we'll do the we'll make the second pylon in our main so we don't have to cut probes for a second. And then third pylon will start right after we start the council. So we can chrono boost our Nexus, we can chrono boost our Stalker out of the gateway, and then take that council immediately as soon as we can, which will be in just a second. And then we can start a, a pylon at the proxy, and then we start warp gate.
Okay.
So warp gate just right after council. And now we're still making probes, and now you just, again, you saturate the mineral line only. We don't actually worry about making a, what's it called? We don't worry about making gases that are natural. You could, if you ever have any extra money too, you could start making like a periodic zealot in your main base. You could just throw a zealot in here and there. Okay. And now we're going to throw a dark shrine down. With this one, normally it is robo before dark shrine if you're doing the macro version, but if it's the all-in version, I would say just make your dark shrine like right away. That's the fastest building you need to get. Hopefully that makes sense and it's not confusing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, and then you just make a robo right after, and now we just start making crazy gateways, and we will chrono boost out charge. So any money we have, we now make gates, and we're almost done probing already. It's basically there. So gateway. We're on 3 gates now. We want to go to 7. we only need to make 2 more probes as well in terms of cost. So we're almost there with that too. We can make like another gateway out of this this proxy pylon, and then we'll call it a day on that. So now we're at 4 gates. Now we can get charge and chrono boost your charge. We have 5 gates, 6 gates, and 7 gates. Okay, now we're done with the gateways, and now we can start the warp prism immediately. So chrono boost out the warp prism now, and keep chrono boosting your charge whenever you can. And you can warp in DTs at your proxy. And now you can choose one of 2 things. You can choose to poke him with him right now, but but just know if you poke him, you reveal it. So I would say if you want to make your chances super high to make him die when you're first attacking, probably wait on it. And now as soon as the prism pops out, you just load him in, and you can start warping, and maybe like also a few zealots. Bring down your natural units now because you're about to set up your attack. So warp in everything you can, just like, you know, get ready to take the fight. Chrono boost your charge one more time, because again, you want to try and make sure you're always hitting those chronos on that warp prism, or on that charge. Don't supply block like I just did. Oh my god, my bad. Okay, the timing's gonna be a little bit late now. But the idea would be, as soon as we have a pylon open, okay, he's actually pushing, so we'll just go around him. It's fine. The idea would be you, as soon as your prism's here, you just do 1 warp in round. Just 1 warp in round, just like that, of zealots, and you wait like this. Get your units gathered, take your prism to the main. You A-move towards his natural, right as your prism's about to enter the main. And you go in, and as soon as your units go into the natural, you can phase in, drop your DTs, and you can go to the mineral line and warp in more DTs, more zealots. Just start as many DTs as possible, and then zealots.
With the leftover. Okay.
Yeah. So DT's priority, no gas, now make zealot. And then that's the whole build. Try not to supply block. It'll probably take some practice to do it a few times, but suddenly you'll just be like, okay, well, this build feels super overwhelming for the Terran right away, and they will die quite often to this build, because it's the fact that you're adding in charge slots to it. The only way Terran won't die to this is if they like build bunkers in their base, in their main and their natural, and they also try to like depot wall their natural, and they have like good spread of like widow mines or tanks and like tons of bio. It's gonna be super hard to not die for Terran.
Yeah, this seems pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, and then you just literally keep just warping in tons of zealots non-stop. And if you really want to, you could always just throw down a 3rd base with it if you feel like, oh, you know what, why not? I have 1,000 minerals, I can take a 3rd just in case I don't kill him somehow. Or just keep hammering units in his face over and over and over. And then now we'll do the macro version. and then we'll be good. That'll be it. All right, so the macro version. I guess with this one, do you want to see, like, again, if you remember what I said, a gateway explode once you actually are cutting probes and you're gonna go for, like, your production. Actually, you know what? I would just recommend, just for the sake of, like, not putting yourself in a weird position, I would just recommend that you go for 4 base.
Okay, that's what I normally do.
Okay,
like
yeah.
the 80 probe.
That way, if the game's stale, like it gets kind of staled out, or like where like both of you are kind of just like it's now like an 18-minute game or like a 15-minute game. It's not ending at like minute 12 or 10. You're not ending the game right away with a 3 base. It puts less pressure on you because you'll have a good economy throughout the game. Whereas it's not going to put you in a situation where you're like, okay, well I have more army, but I need to make something happen with it, and I feel like it's kind of I'm not really sure how I want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it just puts less pressure on you.
Okay.
Okay, and now, so this one will be no proxies, super standard, nothing weird. We'll still go DTs with the prism, no charge lots, just DTs. But very light DT pressure with a really fast third.
Cool.
And this one will be, you can do your standard, like, Stalker, Sentry, Stalker opener, too. So it's all going to feel super normal to, like, what you've already been doing.
Should I be trying to go up to a certain number of stalkers in like a standard game against Terran to like protect myself from like the drops and stuff?
I would say if you go to like 8 stalkers, that'd be great.
Okay.
In general, so you like once you're done making your DTs and you harass them, just keep making stalkers if you're not at 8 yet, and just go until you have about 8, and you'll be good to go.
Okay.
Okay, so we can scout his base. And the reason why 8's a good number is because 8 stalkers is pretty much enough to like 2-shot a medevac or a liberator.
Okay.
So you can just get rid of his air units super easy. Same with banshees. All of them. It's everything except for like a battle cruiser essentially. It will get 2-shot. Okay, so we got the Nexus. He's actually expanding. Alright, and then we'll make our second pylon. And this one we'll still get warp gate first. So only skip warp gate, or only skip warp gate on the all-in version. But when you're playing a standard version, just definitely play your build as like you normally would with standard. Like everything that seems like it flows properly. You just for the all-in version, just remember if you're all-inning, get your whatever the all-in is, get that as fast as possible. That's really the concept.
Okay.
We get another pylon over here. We can now get our sentry second. And then as soon as we can afford it, we'll throw it on our council. Because really what you're trying to do here now is the whole goal is not do damage with DTs. If you do damage with DTs, that's just even better. But the goal here is to make him react to DTs. Make him feel overwhelmed by DTs. Like make him make turrets and make him actually make bunkers and feel like he can't move out. That's really all you want to do to him.
Yeah.
Alright, and then we can make a robo. And we'll make a dark shrine as soon as we can afford it. And then our stalker actually should be like right there. And then our sentry could be like right here. And we could actually make another pylon right there to wall it out, the Reaper, if he were to do it. And get ready to make our Dark Shrine. So we can put the Dark Shrine, I guess, you know, it's kind of not in the position I told you to put it, but like where I was like on the side of the base. But like your Dark Shrine honestly should either go on the pylon on the left that I just made, or like the pylon on the right that I just made, like on the edge of the base, or like the very, very top of the main. Like it's ideally you want to put it like away a little bit. So that was a little bit of a not so good placement. Okay, we can make more stalkers while we're waiting. We can even make like a battery in the natural just in case he pushes. And now I'd say we can also get ready to take our third base. So it's a super fast third base. Prism's already almost done. DT Shrine's halfway done. Third base is about to start. Okay, third base is up. Pick like a pylon over here. We could even take like another pylon on like the high ground up here. I love doing this on the top of the cliff like that on the third base, because you get to see drops really early if he's like skirting the edge of the map basically. And now after the third base is started, take your gases at your natural. We can start going into your DT warp in here because your prism just got there as a shrine finished, so that's like the perfect timing. And then I would say just do yourself a favor when you do this to make it not confusing. Just wait for like 2 seconds, saturate your gas at your natural, and rally to your third, and then start like making immortals. Like just, and then also you can start charge. Because like you'll have all this resource super fast, and that way you're not just missing it the entire time you're trying to harass. Because sometimes you might be in his base for a while, and that way you can just make your life easy and be like, cool, now I'm just gonna make immortals and probes while I'm doing this, and periodically warp in a couple stalkers. Be like, cool, stalker, and I'll go back to your army and be like, oh, he's here, warp in, or phase in, load in, whatever, fly away, and just literally fly away. Don't overdo it, and you'll come back, but like don't try to like out micro him essentially. It'll feel super overwhelming if you do.
Just if the army shows up, run away.
Just do damage until he shows up and then leave.
Okay.
Because it's very non-committal. Like you're not trying to all in him, you're just trying to annoy him and make him overreact. Okay, so we can make a couple of forges. We can make our Robo Bay like you did. And we have charge on the way. And at this point now we have 8 stalkers because we just worked on our last 2. And now we can make our gases at our third, and we can get ready to take our fourth base. As our third base is fully saturated, go send a probe down to your fourth. And we can take like 2 more gates now to go to that 4 we were talking about because we can afford it. But we're not exploding yet either. We're not going to like 10 gates or 8 gates yet because we're going to a fourth early. So we can take our fourth. And we can start. Oh god, what is my immortal doing? Just walked into his base. Okay. Right on. Try not to do that. And then, yeah, so we can saturate our gases at our third. We can rally new probes to my fourth. And we can now, when you have like a breathing moment where you're like, okay, cool, I have a moment to like attack him, try it, hitting him with some DTs again, see what happens. And just get ready to leave again the second he arrives, like that. Try and just get out. You're just being super annoying and just, all right, bye, see ya. And now if we look at probe count, it's around 80. Now you want to blow up your gateways. Like just go crazy on it. Make like 6 more gates because you can totally afford it now. And now at this point we can be chrono boosting our forge upgrades. You can go for blink now that you're done, and now you're getting ready to do that late game thing. And now we can just start making Colossus as well. So we can start chrono boosting Colossus, forges, and that's it. Periodically also add in just zealots whenever you can, or archons whenever you can, and you're good to go. And then at this point now, it goes into the whole late game situation of like what we talked about, where it's like defend yourself and counterattack, or attack him and drag him, and then counter him with zealots where he's not. And then, you know, hopefully he moves out and attacks you because you overwhelm him. You make him feel paranoid and pressured, and then you take advantage. And from this point too, you can do things like you can add in cannon battery to your bases if you want to. A good time to start adding in cannon battery is when you start making archons. Like once you start adding in archons to your tech, you'll have so little gas and so much minerals because it's like full gateway rounds of that you could easily add in your cannon battery like per base, like 1-2 cannon battery, whatever, and you'll be good to go. And also at this point in the game too, I'll just play it out for just a little bit longer just to make sure like there's like good flow here. But at this point too, you'll want to be taking another base, and the reason why is because you're mining out in the main. So always try to like take an expansion as you start mining out in your bases that exist. So as soon as my natural starts mining out, which is going to be in the next like 2 minutes, that would be another expansion again. So that's like the pacing right there. You could do like the pylon net too while you're in the middle of the game and you're just kind of waiting for things to happen and you're just in the build up phase. And now you have DT tech. That's, you know, you have Blink done, you have Storm about done, you have 2/2 on the way, you have Colossus and upgrades on the way. You could now get Blink too on your. I would honestly just recommend get Blink on Stalkers as well. Like whenever you just think about it, when you're like, okay, well, I'm kind of just waiting for all my upgrades to finish. Just add like the last upgrade you'd want to get would be Blink for Stalker, but it would be nice to have, just in case this guy goes air and you feel like you might need it.
Okay.
And then you can make it like maybe another round of Arc or of Templar now, just to have. And then maybe you have a second to be like, oh, let's do another DT attack on his base, and you just drop DTs into his base, and just start smacking something like tech, anything really. Like really, this build's gonna feel like you have so many options. You're like, oh, I can do so many things repeatedly all the time. I think you're gonna feel like your APM is being like pressured hard here, I guess, because it's just gonna be options after options with all these potential things you could do with the Prism. If he shows up, obviously you can just attack him. That's fine. And then you'd be good to go. And you can make cannon battery at every base, like we talked about.
So you think I could do the same build for a while, like
if you do this build, you could get the masters with this build 100%. This build is hard.
Okay.
Like I'm talking to you and I'm like, oh fuck, my mortal's walking into his base. Oh my god. But if you can do this build, you are set. Like this build will take you. It could actually take you in TVP or in Protoss versus Terran specifically, all the way to GM if you actually got really good at it. Like this is a technical build.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of room for improvement. And you know, like for instance, like your DTs are in his base, and you're like, oh shit, let's blink to my Prism and get out of there. It's just annoying for Terran. And having the ability to have like 3/3 charge lot DT to counterattack his base is so high potential damage, because you could just insta kill bases. And if you have the ability, if your army has the ability to not only control a fight, which Storm, Colossus, Archon, Immortal definitely does, but you can also control economy, which DT and Zealot can do. This build is super solid.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's just the opener is pretty technical, but if you can kind of get it down by practice, it'll feel super good. All right, and then also last thing I'll say is if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're like, let's just say hypothetically, like late game, you have two options. If your bank is high and you're doing a good job, but like you're not able to close the game out yet, number one, if you want to keep doing the composition you're going for the entire game, you can add on maybe like a second robo, and add on maybe like another 8 gateways. So you can go to like a total of like 18 gates or something like that, or 20 gates, so that when you remax, if you have a big fat bank, you can just insta remax and put on like really quick pressure after the fight happens. So your remax is super quick. The second way you can do it, from what you have right now, if your bank is getting high, is you can start upgrading weapon upgrades for Cybercore, for air, and you could go into like 4 or 5 Stargate with a fleet beacon carrier transition, and that would also be super strong.
Do you want to always get like a mothership with your?
I would say
when
yes.
you do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you actually want to go, if you want to do a full, like we're talking like 100 supply invested into Skytoss, mothership makes it so much more effective because it buys so much time for carriers to do damage before the mothership dies. And if the mothership doesn't die, it's even better because it just makes it complicated for your opponent, because everything's like always being cloaked and it has to be revealed repeatedly. It just makes it annoying.
Okay. Cool. Thanks for your help.
Yeah, it's this is fun. That was a really technical build. I would say just save both the replays. Definitely not the bad example. So
okay, sounds good.
Save the good one, and now you have an idea of how your build can look the same both ways to your opponent, where they won't know if you are going to all in them, or if you're going to do the 3 base version. It'll be hard to read at the start of the game, and then if you proxy it as well, makes it even harder to read, because now they don't know if you're, you know, like if they can't see it, they're like, oh god, like where is stuff? I don't know. I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a lot I would say this is a lot to digest for PvT, and if you get it down,
I'm gonna have to watch the VOD a couple of times.
if you get it down, it'll feel super good. Like you'll feel like you just break turns apart repeatedly.
Cool. That's what I'm looking for. So.
All right. Well, any final
Thank
questions? Anything final before we wrap up?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, good luck. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
And good luck in your games.
Same to you.
All right. Thanks. Take it easy.
Bye.
All right. See ya. All right, guys. That has been a coaching lesson with Myrna. That was a diamond level Perdos versus Terran with a technical Dark Templar focused playstyle. So that's kind of cool. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, boys, ladies and gentlemen, good luck to you as well. And yeah, guys, I'll say it one more time, I guess. I'll see you in the next one. My outro is running on. All right, see you guys. Peace. Thanks for watching.